Everyone else, please come and join us. We're getting ready to get started. And thanks everyone for being here today. It's a pleasure to meet many of you, and some of you we know. Some of you have been supporters of this work for many years. So thank you for that. My name is Michael. This is Rebecca, and we are the New Nature Foundation. We're here to tell you about, well, our version of Tikkun Olam. We work in rainforests around the world in Uganda and Vietnam. And, we grew up Jewish. We went to Solomon Schechter and Akiba, and really, again, just thanking you for being here with us today.
Okay, so we're gonna go to tag team. I think a couple of things just about us to get it started. Rebecca and Betty and John still are here, and they are new members of this show and absolutely rave about it all the time. So thank you all for including them and making them feel so welcome, because they're very happy about it, hear about it, all happy that. Michael and I are in fact high school sweethearts from Akiba. This is us in Rabbi Yonder's class at Akiba in 1995. And first time in Uganda in the year 2000, when we both thought we'd go real, rural. Michael got the beard, I cut off all the hair, we did the whole thing. But more than Tikkun Olam, I think one of the important things that I wanted to share with all of you is just the community and the family that we've created since the year 2000. Margaret Kamagisa is our project manager, who we've known since the first day we walked into the rainforest in Uganda in June 2000. This is us back in 2006, and then here we are in 2021. She's still the #1 manager over there. She takes care of everything we do. And in the next picture, it also gives you an idea of our staff. We work very, 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 very hard, both in Uganda and Vietnam. But what we are trying to do is honor the idea of joy and the idea of storytelling and the idea of, the community, the Kehilat, the idea that we can do this with pleasure, joy, we can sing and we can dance, and we can do it the way that it makes us feel a lot more impact and a much more long lasting impact than this idea of say this with no reason why, or, do this because the outside world thinks it's important. We understand you can be a very small but mighty community, and we're going to share some of that with you today.
All right, so for those who weren't quite sure, Uganda is in East Africa. And then if you take a look, we are working in Western Uganda. And so this is actually known as the Albertine Rift. Most folks have heard of the Rift Valley in Kenya, Tanzania, but there's another arm of that Rift Valley where the continent is tearing apart here in Western Uganda. And it's a center of biodiversity. It's where East Africa, with all of the lions and elephants and zebras and giraffes, it's where that meets Central Africa with the gorillas and the chimps and the monkeys. And so it's an amazing part of the world. Zoom in a little closer and you can see where we're actually working. Vanna's going to show us out there. Yes, the Kibale National Park and then Queen Elizabeth National Park. And you can see this is a satellite picture from Google, but they are different colors than the surrounding areas. That's not because Google colored it that way. That's because there is literally no nature outside of the protected areas. Tea plantations, family farms, just humanity. Very, very dense. And so those shapes that you see on the screen, those are the boundaries of the national park. Similar in Vietnam. Uganda actually has one of the fastest growing human populations in the world. Vietnam has one of the densest human populations in the world. So in Vietnam, we're up in the far, far north in Ha Giang province, in a place called Cao Ca. And it's an isolated forest just surrounded by people. And there are some amazing animals in these places. In Uganda, the chimps are the flagship, I guess. A lot of people have heard of the chimps. A lot of people travel to Uganda to see chimps. If you're interested in that, speak to us. We can hook you up with some wonderful safaris over there. Elephants, of course. We actually just took on our last trip. It was drizzling out, and there was a herd of about 50 elephants just playing in the mud. It looked like the Jungle Cruise or something. It was probably the best elephant sighting we've had in 25 years. But real, exactly. Those are actual real elephants, and he's not falling over because he's sick. He's just rolling around in the mud having a good time. Lions, of course, very famous, popular animals, in more danger now than they had been for many, many years. So they're in need of conservation. This one, most folks have never seen, let alone heard of. This is the Tonkin snub-nosed monkey. This had been thought to have gone extinct in the 50s and was only rediscovered in the 90s. Um, Really funky looking monkey. But this is the flagship species that we're working for in Vietnam. And of course, the idea is that if you protect habitat and you protect these flagship species, the chimps, the lions, the monkeys, you save all of the other animals as well. So these are animals that most folks either don't care about, like the snake, that's a rhinoceros viper, or this is a Sicilian, which is basically an amphibian that looks like an earthworm that big. Very strange looking creatures. But when you save the habitat for all the big charismatic ones, you're obviously saving tens of thousands of other animals as well. And what's they have in common, whether they're big or small, or whether they're in Uganda or Vietnam, is they need trees. They need trees to survive, whether it's for food or shelter or just changing the microclimate of the place and giving them the right humidity on all of that. And of course, people need trees too. We use trees for all sorts of things in the US. We have beautiful wood floors here, wood doors. Yes, the beautiful arc. And of course, people are building from wood in both of these countries. But even more needed than that, and even more frequent use, is for firewood, because the vast majority of people, both in Vietnam and Uganda, are cooking on firewood for all of their meals. About 95% of people in Uganda are cooking on biomass. So even if they're in the capital city, chances are they're cooking on charcoal because they just can't afford gas or electricity or something like that.
So, and for generations, ancestrally, everyone's had enough firewood, but as the populations grow and the habitats continue to decrease, there's just not enough wood left for cooking, for heating your water. So in this case, this is Agnes in Uganda. That's just 3 days on a traditional stove. And she has to go at this point, either break into the national park, which is no longer legal. It's always the girls and the women who collect the firewood, just in case you were wondering. Not go to school. We have many times seen girls in their school uniforms on their way, instead of going to school, to collect. And there's just simply no solution. The government is saying you need to be more environmental researchers, academics, all of us conservationists are saying you need to protect the forest, but no solutions are really being offered. This is the traditional stove, for those of you who are unfamiliar. It's 3 stones, you find your stones, and the problem with this stove is many. The fire is going everywhere. You're not able to concentrate it. The smoke is terrible for the women who are breathing it in. Children get too close and you have burns. If you have this inside your home, you risk fires for your home, all kinds of issues. Michael has a namesake in Uganda. Michael was his entire arm scarred from a boil of water just falling over because the goat knocked it over or whatever. So the idea is we didn't want to come up with something new, but we wanted to see what works in terms of being a better conservationist and being more practical. What's a long-term, sustainable, realistic solution for people who have no money to waste on this and need to eat?
And so here's the solution. Something called a rocket stove. And this was the very first thing that we wanted to start working on back when this program started in 2006. So we're 20 years into the program now. Now, the rocket stove, we did not invent this. This was actually invented in the US back in the 60s. It's been used all over the world. What Beck and I did was change this design to be able to be made from local materials. So rather than handing out, say, 10,000 metal stoves at a refugee camp and saying, there, done, we just solved the problem, those things, as soon as they break, people cannot afford to replace them. They can't build them themselves. And so it's kind of a one and done. We wanted to teach people how to do this for themselves. So not only does it last beyond the life of the project, but they can teach their friends, their neighbors, anyone who wants to try this type of cooking can now do it. So it's basically an elbow. The firewood goes in the front and the fire comes out the top, and that limits where air is going in. It directs the fire at the saucepan. And so you're still cooking on firewood, but it uses 30 to 50% less firewood. And our design is made from mud and cow dung and sand. It's very, very easy to build, and neighbors can teach one another how to do it. So over 10,000 built so far. This is saving millions and millions of pounds of wood every single year. And more than half of the families in our target areas are now using these stoves, up from less than 5% when we started back in 2006. And the excellent part is that they really love them. They love them because they modernize the kitchen. They love them because they cook faster. They make less smoke. When we do surveys, an answer that we get far more often than you would think is it doesn't burn my kids. So people actually love these stoves, and it fills them with a sense of pride that they did it for themselves. Our staff will go out and work with the family members on teaching them how to build it, teaching them how to maintain it. But we don't provide anything other than that helping hand. They've collected the mud themselves, they've collected the sand themselves, and then they build it with our staff. And they end up just being so proud of this thing. There are some families who have had the stoves in their kitchens since 2006. And even though it's just mud, you just smear a little more mud on it. When it starts cracking, it can last 20 years or even longer. And again, this is important because the human population is skyrocketing. When we first went to Uganda in the year 2000, the country had a population of 24 million. That has doubled in the last 25 years. It's now 51 million people in Uganda, and that is expected to double again by the year 2050. A lot of the world population growth is evening out. Africa, not yet. Africa is still growing very, very quickly, with Uganda being one of the fastest growing in all of Africa. And this is a different shot, again, from space, but you can see that's the shape of the national park, and outside of it are the farms. It's a hard border where wildlife is having a tough time and people are having a tough time meeting their own needs. And of course, we're not blaming these folks for having families. These are beautiful people with beautiful families, and we're just trying to work with them so that they can get what they need in an environmentally friendly way. So the stoves were the first thing we did. They caught on really well. People liked them, but again, you're still cooking with firewood. So after a good, let's say, I think it was 6 or 7 years of well, less than that, 5 or 6 years of making the stoves, we branched out and started making biomass briquettes as well. And we did bring a couple of these today. I think they must be in that blue bag. We make two different types of biomass briquettes. The first one is made out of waste paper, sawdust, banana peels, cassava peels, waste from the farm. And yeah, and this burns like firewood. And so families who are used to cooking on firewood are happy to switch to that. And in fact, a few years ago, we handed over that part of the work to a co-op that had sprung up to do it for themselves.
They want, you don't
Okay.
pass it.
We don't need to pass it around.
You touch it if you want it.
And these are bartered with people. So again, if you're collecting firewood in the park or outside of the park, you're not paying for your fuel, you're just picking it up. So we can't charge anything for these. But if you bring the raw materials, the sawdust or the paper or the peelings to the co-op, they will then trade you for the finished products. And then the other version, which we started several years after, is this. This is, we call it EcoChar, and it cooks just like charcoal does. Again, it's made from waste products. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But this one we can sell because people who are cooking on charcoal are used to paying for it. And so we sell this in town, which is actually the driving force behind the deforestation at this point. People picking up small amounts of firewood are one thing, but a handful of families making a business out of selling charcoal is really destroying the forest on the large scale, supplying the cities, supplying everywhere. You may have heard Rwanda actually outlawed the making of charcoal at this point because it is so destructive. But what does that mean? Rwanda's neighbors are now providing charcoal for Rwanda. So it's even more deforestation in Uganda and Congo. So this is an answer that it's not yet sustainable business, but we're getting closer and closer to that every year. Hundreds of thousands of these briquettes being made every year at this point, and again, being sold, and it works. So just recently, we switched from making this out of waste that the tea estate gave us, and now we're making it out of invasive plants that scientists are taking out of the national park. So this is a win-win-win. There are some invasive plants that have taken over actually about 200 square kilometers inside the national park. They got funding to remove them, and so they're creating new habitat. We are then turning those invasive plants into the charcoal, so that then addresses the primary threat to that new habitat. And by the end, we're going to have hundreds of square kilometers of additional habitat inside a place that's already protected as a national park, while the neighboring communities are getting this nice sustainable fuel. So it's really quite amazing. And
Gratuitous photo.
it actually works. Yeah, they cook delicious food.
They cook delicious food, they cook delicious beans, and we're very proud. of them. What else we got?
So how do you
Okay.
get folks interested in
But
it?
how do you get folks interested in them? If they're not already interested, first of all, we have, of course, our growing trust and family that we have, but we also opened, we now have six natural history museums. So these are in local trading centers, like local community areas. We have 2 in big towns. They are free. They are open on weekends only because kids have to go to school, but the kids all come as soon as school is over, or come. Sometimes teachers join them. And it's just been one of the most exciting and popular parts of our project for children to have an opportunity to have a book for the first time, to go through a microscope, to do experiments, to have creative outlets for art, for singing, for poetry. We bring games, it's really just what we all got to experience, and some of the reasons that we all love nature and to this day are doing our word seeks in the morning or whatever. It's just this idea to have a creative an educational outlet for science, and that science and nature isn't just cut one tree then plant 2, or tourism brings in income generation. So there's only been rote memorization as a form of conservation. We're trying to change that completely because Ugandans particularly really enjoy all of this and have a fantastic time. So 2006, our first one, we had 5,000 visitors last year, over 54,000. And that's just in weekends. And the last location was just opened in December of last year. Please come and enjoy them. If any of you have any teacher in you, you will just love every second of it.
And these were the first of their
First of
kind in the country. So
Yeah,
very, very popular and very
really good
exciting.
church or school. So then we also took the idea of storytelling around the fire, the idea of drumming and dance as a form of teaching tradition. All of the clans that we work with, the Batoro, the Bachiga, the Biankole, they all have animals as their totems. They all honor nature. They just are forgetting it as we modernize. So we said, let's start having events. So every December, I have 6 day-long conservation competitions with a theme where the communities are teaching each other about conservation, current issues, through their own traditional knowledge, their own cultural way of explaining things to people. So dance is incredibly popular. We do a bean tasting competition where 10 to 20 cooks will enter. They have fuel efficient stoves. We have pre-measured dry beans, and then we actually have a bean tasting competition with judges, and then we end up with 10 kilos of beans that everybody else gets to eat with rice after that. But the winners then come up and say, I cook these delicious beans, I cook them with this little wood, I cook them with the fuel efficient stove, and any of you who haven't done it yet are just crazy, and this is fantastic. And we do it around December when everyone's home for the holidays. So this is also our time to give back. The rest of the time, it's if you want a stove, make your own mud. If you want to, plant a tree, then go get a seedling and we'll talk to you about it. But in December, we say thank you. And we're all going to celebrate together, dance together, and laugh together. And we have been highlighted for these conservation competitions throughout the United States, and internationally conferences have actually had us come and talk about them repeatedly to share what our kind of program is. So this is Vietnam Monkey Day. You've got your VIPs with all the very serious judging. I did a sewing competition one year because the women there are very good at sewing. So I had them sew conservation messages onto things. Recycled fashion show. People really love my recycled fashion shows. So we've got, this is in Uganda here. So she's doing rice bags, plastic bags, natural fibers. This is just, I can't even tell you about it. It's so fantastic. The modeling, the dancing, the music, the ideas that people come up with. We've got soda pop cans as necklaces. We've got headdresses that you've never seen before. And so these started in 2011, 300 people. Last year, we went up to 4,800. So it's 500 to 1,000 at each. It is a life-changing day for everyone. There's lots of prizes. It's a science fair. There's poetry. There's just every kind of outlet that you can have, whether you're a baby or an old Mzee, an old man. And it's a way to bring the community back together and celebrate. And what I think that we haven't focused too much on is we're not inventing any of these ideas. They're all on the internet. They already work. We went to college, we read the papers. It's just that the paper said everything's going extinct or endangered, full stop, bye-bye, I'm gonna go publish something else. We are just taking those ideas and saying, let's actually now do something with what you're clearly saying is the issue and that there's a clear solution. So we're able, a lot of projects around the world are replicating the stoves the way we do it, our conservation competitions, the science centers and stuff. So we're very proud of being able to do something that's replicable without a lot of money.
And just bringing it all home, everything we're doing here is for habitat conservation. And of course, we got into that because we love animals and we wanted to protect the forest for the animals. But all of us rely on forests and trees all around the world. The Congo Basin, the eastern edge of which is what tucks into Uganda, and that's where we're working. That provides us more breathing air than the Amazon does, and really just carbon sequestration to help us with climate change. And so all of us around the world are reliant on these forests, whether you know it or not. It's helping with rainfall and farming in the individual communities. And so everything we're doing from, alternative livelihoods, everything, this is the pitch over here. Everything you see over here, we purchase at full retail price in the countries where they come from. We then mark it up for you guys so that we can put a little bit towards the project as well. But we're supporting all of the different co-ops and individuals who are making that because it's an environmentally friendly business. So that's a nice alternative livelihood. We talk about family planning. All the different forms of education, all of these things to protect the habitat so that people and animals all have what they need. And you all can help. Of course, we would love donations today. Of course, we would love you to go home with something fun. Again, if you're interested in going to Uganda, and that's Betty in the First Science Center teaching, you are very welcome to come on over to Uganda, see what we're doing. You can have kind of a voluntourism. We'll send you on safari to see beautiful things, but then also help out with the project, meet all of the staff and our Ugandan family who's been working on this with us for the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, so please shop and please feel free to also donate. We have our staff of everything that you've seen with 35 staff. I run everything from here. Our cars, our manufacturing, we were a little under $205,000 last year. So it's not a big budget. Your money's gonna go really far. We guarantee you that, and you'll know exactly where it's going. So we also feel very proud of our transparency and that we really do, we work hard with your donations and know that, trust that.
Yeah. So if you go on the website, there's lots of videos and lots more photos there if you want to see more about it. Also, all of our annual reports are there, so you can check out the actual finances. But for now, yeah, we just want to say thank you again for having us. And of course, we can answer any questions that you might have before we all go over and start having fun in the craft shop. Yeah, but thank you again.
I have a question. It's Miriam online. Hello? Me.
Well, Miriam's got one online. Let's grab her first.
All right.
Yes.
In 2011, I went to Haiti with the American Jewish World Service. And one of the things that I remembered so clearly was the deforestation in Haiti compared to the Dominican Republic, which was on this same island. And they were just cutting down all the trees that were the same diameter as what you showed because they needed the charcoal. And what the AJWS and other people were doing were supplying them with solar stoves because, of course, sunlight is endless over there. But the problem is if they break, then who's going to fix that? So
exactly. We did a lot of experimenting with solar stoves at the beginning of the project because, the concept is great. It's sunny. Now, where we are at, it's a rainforest, so it's not sunny every day, but during the dry season, there's lots and lots of sun. They could work, but as you just said, they are not replicable. They have to be bought and supplied from the outside, and you can't even really build them with any materials that are available in the country. So, of course, Haiti being closer to the US, it might be more financially viable to bring in some of those mirrors and other reflective things. In East Africa, it's just not possible for an everyday person to do that for themselves. And so we didn't want to be the type of program that hands out expensive things. We wanted to be doing something that's replicable.
Another reason why we didn't is with climate change, the rains are massive and insane these days. So it's even harder for a solar stove to really successfully, it's certainly not reliable if you need to know that you can cook. And that way, we wanted people to kind of get rid of those three stones completely. We wanted there something to be that they could just know that they could trust that.
And the other,
I'm going to keep.
The other question that I have is, are you going to leave the stuff there so that those of us that will be in synagogue later this week, like on Thursday, will the stuff be there to look at and buy?
Unfortunately, no. We're going to take all the stuff with us, but we will have Betty and John let you know if we're, next time we're having one of these for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I applaud this very intelligent way of problem solving.
Thank you.
However, when we read all over the world, there's political, religious conflict, tribal conflict, and Africa does not escape that. How do you manage to function in view of animosities that are always there?
That's a great question. There's several different ways to answer it. I'll take a stab at it, and then so in Uganda, it's basically half Christian and half Muslim, and both of those have a lot of traditional beliefs that they interweave into those two more modern religions, and they are living next door to one another. And there, you don't see a lot of the religious fighting in Uganda that you do hear about elsewhere in Africa. In Vietnam, of course, they are communist and they don't technically have a religion, although we do see a lot of religious ceremony and a lot of traditional belief still going on. You don't see a lot of that intertribal warfare in either of the places we're working, which is one of the reasons that our type of program can work. You have huge problems all over the world, and there are big organizations dealing with it in different ways. Our style of grassroots education, involvement, celebration, it might not work everywhere, but it's working very well in these areas, possibly because of that.
So the short answer is we keep it real focused and real specific, and this is, we're talking about mud and stoves and trees. Where we will go to church and preach, and I've sung hallelujah at church, and we'll go to a mosque and do the same thing. We do not get involved in the tribal plans about whether or not a cow should be in this national park, because we know better than to have an opinion on that. I speak a lot of the local languages, so I try very hard to take the time to do that. So we keep it narrow and focused. We don't involve ourselves in things that we shouldn't speak to. And we are trusted because it's been 20 some years. So people, I think all of those things make it different than another situation. But I also, like, we have an election in January. I'll probably stay out of the country during the election. If we have an Ebola outbreak, I'll probably stay out of the country. So we also make smart choices about when we do that. Yeah. They never let Jews. Most of the people have never met a single Jew, so that's always
That's always a fun talking point.
Yeah.
There are Ugandan Jews in the far east of the country, the Abu Yadaya, who have been around for over 100 years at this point. Ugandan Jews.
But I think speaking the language also helps a lot, or speaking enough of the language.
Yeah. We have a question right here in the front row in the beautiful shoes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, she's gonna tell me what the question is.
Okay.
Is it about the monkey? Okay. Do you know the monkey?
That really funky looking one, in 10 years in working in Vietnam, we never once saw that monkey. That's how rare they are. There's only 250 of them, the snub nose. 250 of them left. Now, part of that, a lot of that is because we're working in the villages around the forest. We're not in the forest every day. But we know that they're there because we put different camera traps in the forest, and so we see pictures of them on the cameras. And also, we're friends with some of the people who work in the forest, and they'll send us updates about it.
Tell you, like, baboons snuck into our house and stolen our eggs. Tell you that the chimp has walked past me when I was making number one.
In Uganda, there's a lot more monkeys, and we do see them all the time. And sometimes they'll be dancing on the roof of the house or dumping on the hood of the car. That is something that's very nice. That although they're basically confined to the national parks at this point, there's very little habitat outside of them. When you go into the national parks, you can see an awful lot.
And when you think about the political and other issues, one of the biggest issues really is crop raiding, with animals leaving the forest and destroying crops. And that, I think, is much more heated in our areas because they think that's our role as conservationists. And it's really the government's role. They're receiving all this money. It's not going to the people. But we do try, if people come to us with that, we do look online and see about period hot pepper sprays or elephant trenches. We're trying to give people opportunities, but that we, when a heated topic comes up, we try our best to at least give an educated response.
Earlier this year, Rebecca brought over some hand-powered air horns, so they'll never run out of air. You kind of pump it up, and we're testing those to see if they can keep elephants away. And our manager said it did work, so now we're bringing over more to give out as prizes for the December competition. Things like that. Yeah.
How do you divide your time between Vietnam and Uganda?
That's a great question. Between Vietnam and Uganda at this point is easy because after 10 years in Vietnam, we actually stepped aside. It was about a 2 to 3 year process that Rebecca was.
Love how you divide your times. Go on,
Yeah.
please tell me.
Well, she was,
John America, it's a good.
but he said between Uganda and Vietnam. What's the
Okay.
question?
It's just not your answer, I'm just saying.
Yes.
So I used to do 2 trips to Vietnam every year and 3 trips to Uganda and then the rest in the States. And it's planned on based on weather and the importance of it. Uganda has so many more projects that we really need more time there. And Vietnam, as I was mentioning to someone earlier, the projects are adapted a lot quicker, so it doesn't need as much as my time. And also as a female, they don't really, it's all men that I work with, they don't really want me there that often. They just kind of want the idea and then grow with it. So I communicate, all my work with Vietnam is now done with Facebook Messenger and online, basically my hours of operation are different than a normal American, from like 5 till 8, we're really bumping and then late at night. And then Uganda, again, it's just constant WhatsApping, constant communication online, but March, July, and December.
So that's kind of locally managed now. I was
Yes.
wondering, there was something in the news this week that President Trump was mad at Vietnam for some reason.
Yeah, well, he's mad at everyone. Yes, everything is locally managed. There would be no reason for me to be doing the work I'm doing if it needed me if it was dependent on me entirely. Yeah, so it's run by local, and not only run locally, but run by people who live in the villages and grew up in the villages from where they come from. Yeah, again, addressing the cultural, religious, and other biases that I'm not aware of and never will be able to address. Do we have another?
Thank you.
So in Uganda, why did you decide to choose the conservation of monkeys as opposed to rhinos?
Oh,
And why did you choose Uganda versus the rest of the other African countries?
and this is where it really falls on you.
Okay. So why Uganda, first of all? That's where we went our first time ever in Africa as undergraduates. My professor had a camp in Kibale where we're still working. And so that's where we met people and that's where we started becoming active. And because there's a lot that needs doing there, that's why we stayed in that particular area. The types of work we're doing would help with habitat conservation with rhinos and any other animal. And that's just because it's just Rebecca really.
Michael grew up with his bedroom painted like a rainforest with chimps all over it. He's a primate.
Yeah, my love has been primates, but the work would protect other habitat as well, and we would love to branch out. The work in Queen Elizabeth National Park is a drier area, lions, elephants, antelope, that type of stuff. Rhinos had gone extinct in Uganda in the 80s, and so the only rhinos they have right now are all on a farm. They are not any in the wild at this point. But in terms of habitat protection and preparing for reintroduction of those rhinos, yeah, our type of work would work, and we would love to have it expand.
Yeah, it works with cheetah projects in Namibia, and it works. It's simply just this was for him. It was primates, and his university sent us to Uganda, and we fell in love with Uganda. Yeah, and Denver Zoo actually invited us to Vietnam. We didn't choose that; they just saw what we were doing and said replicate it.
Are there other organizations kind of similar, small scale to yours that are working throughout Africa or that you're partnering with, or how does that work?
Another good question.
I mean, the short answer is yes. It's an unfortunate there's a little bit of a proprietary battle and everybody kind of thinks they do it right and they do it better. So I wish there was more collaboration. One of the things that our funders have done is actually sent out, we had a professional film crew come out so that they could say, get it on paper, get it on film and have the other small organizations replicate. There are African conferences that we go to where we're all trying to share knowledge. These stoves are being done and built everywhere, all over. The briquette in many different levels are being done, but it's a much bigger project. And in fact, we are struggling to afford what it costs. So it's bigger organizations that are taking on biomass and charcoal and that kind of things. The stoves and the education, yes, there's countless, many thousands, small, medium, and large, some that are transparent and some that aren't. But there's good people all over doing good things.
Yeah. And none doing our type of work in the areas where we're doing it. What we
25 years.
Right.
Yeah, really.
What we see a lot in Uganda, and I don't know if this is the case elsewhere, but we see folks come in with one particular project and then get sidelined because there are so many kids in need of so much help with education and health and other things that a lot of programs that start out as conservation projects will turn into scholarship programs. And if you go and you're researching other projects online, they might call themselves one thing, but if you look at what they're actually doing, it's a completely different thing. So that's another part of why Rebecca was saying we are narrow, we stay focused on this goal, and that's a big part of how we can do so much with such a little budget, because we're not trying to solve every problem out there. But yeah, we do share this information with anyone who will listen, and we've hosted folks out at the project to learn from us. And
There's two projects in Uganda for us that have started success that are smaller.
Yeah.
In scope, yeah, and it's great because then it just has a larger reach. So we love the idea of replication and sharing knowledge. We're all for it.
You talk about the government. The US government gives money to all these nations. Who do they give it to? They give it to the political people.
Yeah.
And the money doesn't get trickled down to them. It's best to give your money and worry about an organization like this, or my son was in another organization. It works for the people.
Yeah.
Don't expect US government's money to get to the people.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Well said.
Yes.
I mean, you see a lot of really big organizations with beautiful buildings in the capital and beautiful cars. You saw our one Toyota, that Toyota is suffering. Yeah.
Yeah. And Uganda is a tricky situation too. It's a democratically elected president. He's not slaughtering the population wholesale like Idi Amin was, that's what a lot of people remember about Uganda if they know about Uganda. But at the same time, he's been president since the 80s, and he wins more than 95% of the vote every time.
It's terrible.
Yeah, some terrible policies. The US still likes him because he's sending people to fight our wars for us in Somalia and other places in the Horn of Africa. So it's very, very complex. So yes, focusing on the people, focusing on the conservation is how we can get stuff done. These are great questions. Thank you. Sometimes we'll go someplace and it's crickets. So we love hearing all of these questions.
Make a little exception to the previous comment, because my daughter just finished working for USAID, where she was very heavily involved in aid to Africa in Rwanda and in Ghana and in Kenya, and was in charge of a very big operation, and they were very, very effective. It's a disaster what's happened in the last 8 months, but
Yes.
so there was effective sources of funding to the local people, no question about it.
Yeah.
And in improving their health in a major way.
Yeah.
Health especially, yes. In Uganda, AIDS drugs had been free. Birth control had been very, very affordable thanks to USAID. I don't think we've fully appreciated yet what the second shoe dropping will be like once these programs are actually gone. So it is very complex.
SAID projects or anybody else. I think we were just trying to champion our little.
So I understand, there have been channels that have been very effective.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Fair.
what I want to think. And it's a tragedy what's happened in the last
Yes.
6 months.
It is.
Yes.
I mentioned the monkeys jumping on the cars and the Toyota. Are gas-powered vehicles the main source of transportation in Uganda?
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays they are. When we first started going, far fewer people, far fewer cars, and most folks in the village would get around on a bicycle. Nowadays, motorcycles are more affordable and everybody has a cell phone. So you do see a lot more motorcycles, a lot more cars. Still plenty of people walking, of course. Most folks are subsistence farmers, and so they're not earning enough to buy a motorcycle or a car. But yes, lots and lots of vehicles around.
And all the safari cars are gas powered.
Yeah. Yeah. Uganda is now producing oil as well, so that's a whole nother layer of politics and craziness, because of course the oil is in the Albertine Rift, where the earth is splitting open and it's easy to get at the oil. That's where all the biodiversity is, that's where all the national parks are, and so they are actually drilling for oil inside 2 or 3 different national parks. Luckily not where we're working, but it's complex. Yeah. Okay, so we will be around over there to answer any more questions more personally, and please come on over, take a look at skills.
Quick pitch. So we've got Ugandan, and Vietnamese crafts. Almost every single item is handmade for you. Every single item, or I'd say 85 to 90 are recycled products that are made with all natural colors, dyes, fibers, etc. I have a story for every single one if you want to hear it. I know every single person that sold every single thing over on those tables. And no, I didn't mark any prices for anything. So just think, think generously, but between, $10 to $100 is, what you've got already done, and please feel free to ask questions. Okay.
Thank you again for having.
Thank you.
Hey, if you want to look at the briquettes, we'll leave them up here.
I'm sure.
Yeah.